Welcome to Matters of DeCorum. I'm Scott Corum. This is what matters to me. So there's a lot of things you can do in a role-playing game. I mean, it's almost limitless. But one of the most common components of an RPG is combat. Okay, there's nothing wrong with combat-heavy games or games where it's fight of the week. I actually kind of like that. Um, Role-playing games emulate action, after all. Most of them. You can emulate any form of literature you really want. You could have a role-playing game based on Pride and Prejudice. I'd have a hard time not making it Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. You could have role-playing games set in Dickensian England, or during the Revolutionary War, where you're dealing with political intrigue. I think some of those exist. Still, combat turns into a regular feature of most games. Characters are optimized for combat. You have a character that's mostly worked around what you roll to hit and how much damage you do. Nothing wrong with that. That's some of the most entertaining role playing I have had. But it's not all you can do. Because you can optimize characters for combat, most people do. And you get these groups where you have a whole bunch of people sitting around who can kill anything you throw. You know, my friend Vic worked out that in 5th edition, a good party of characters can take out just about anything in less than 5 turns. Now, rolls can go against you, but on average. So what happens when combat isn't enough? What happens when combat starts to be unsatisfying? What happens when you have a group of characters who are looking to get into a fight because they're all combat oriented, and you throw a fight at them and they sneeze and take out everything and then look at you and go, but where's our fight? I had a player in the early 90s who fantasy world, but they had gone to a space world, and he picked up a laser rifle, and he really wanted to fight. He was a ninja. He really wanted to fight, but someone would show, here's your fight. Here's the group of orcs and a bunch of blam blam blam. Where's my fight? Got very upset when I took the laser rifle away from him, and didn't seem to understand what the problem had been. Fighting isn't everything. I know. I said that out loud. Fighting isn't everything. There's collateral damage in the aftermath of the fight, and what happens when your situation isn't a fight. Catastrophes are amazing role playing. And I'm not talking about warfare, bombs. That does certainly counts, but sometimes stuff just happens. You're flying someplace in a jumbo jet, and 2 engines go out. Pilot has a heart attack. Hydraulic system fails. You're going down. There's no landing gear. What do you do? See, there's a situation where your combat-oriented and optimized character suddenly has to think. I don't like throwing situations that there's no way out of. Then again, I don't like spoon-feeding a solution to my players. I will throw them something that is an awful situation. That is the worst possible thing they could end up in. That is something you'd never want to happen. And then I'll see how they get themselves out of it. If you've got a good group, and I've got a couple of really good ones, that'll happen. They'll think of something, and at that point, as a game master, you get to reward creative and inspired thinking. You also get to reward a certain amount of desperation. Your plane is crashing. Why is the plane crashing? Well, I don't know. Give me a roll on perception and engineering. I don't have any engineering. Well, give me a roll on perception and hope you roll really low. I'm speaking in victory terms, but that's kind of what comes to my head first. Suddenly, these people who can hit the nuts on a flea from 500 paces with any weapon you put in their hand find out that that skill doesn't do jack when your airplane is crashing. Well, I don't know. Who knows how to fly a jet? Hands? Anyone? Anyone? Ooh. Oh, man, this could be tricky. Now, no one else on board really knows how. The pilot knew how, but he's sick and kind of unconscious. Co-pilot is kind of dazed. He might be getting sick too, but he might be able to give you a bonus on your rolls, but he can't do it himself. Good luck. And that's a situation where if they don't work something out, they're all going to die. Them, everyone on the airplane, everything. It's a terrible thing to do. But if they make it out of that, you can be a hero for killing the enemy army. You can be a hero for sneaking into the other king's castle and killing the king to prevent the war. There's a million ways to be a hero in combat, and a million ways to be heroes outside of it. There's a rumble as you sit in the village inn. You step outside. Oh, it looks like it's an avalanche. This place is going to get wiped out. What do? You're in the dwarven mines with the dwarves? Yeah, they've got some, there's some gold here that you could probably sneak. Oh, wait, there's a rumble. There's a loud sound. The entrance is just caved in. And rocks are starting to come down. What do? Yeah, this boat's a pretty stable, everything. Oh man, that's a big wave. Storm's just whipped up. No, you don't see a sea monster out there, but that wave is 3 times the height of your masts, and it's coming right for you. What do? It is one way to throw your players a curve, and one way to encourage a group to not everyone stand on top of their combat stats and crow at you. There's a lot of different stuff you can do outside of combat. You can do merchanty things or persuasiony things or bardy things. You can try and con your way through places or stealth your way into stuff. But a lot of that comes in the form of it's us versus them. Okay. Then there's nothing wrong with that. Most stories that involve player characters involve conflict with another. There's some conflict within the party, but there's also conflict with the other guy. There's a bad guy. There's lieutenants. And there's a boss, and sometimes it can be very like a video game. But when you study conflict in literature, one of the big ones is man versus nature. And nature can provide monsters. Maybe there's a sea monster that is bringing up those waves. Maybe there's some yeti that are pushing rocks down on the hill. Maybe there's bears or wolves or bees attacking a town, and you actually have to go and fight those or not. Lots of ways to deal with bears. You can fight bears. I wouldn't recommend it. Bears are horrifying. Or you can give the bears honey and really hope they get bored with the town because the honey's so good. And all of that still potentially involves combat. Then there's these things that you can't fight. Volcanoes and tornadoes and hurricanes and landslides, earthquakes, tsunamis. And sometimes it's not a question of fighting something or stopping something. And that's a mindset that a lot of groups get into. Well, how do we stop this? How do we fight this? How do we make this problem go away? And for a lot of problems, that can just happen. We kill the bad guy. We annihilate the army. We hire them to not fight us. We find a way around it. But you can't argue with a tornado. Maybe you've got a spell that can counter a tornado. Maybe you've got special powers that lets you make the earthquake not happen. Maybe not. For the most part, those are terrible situations. And that's if you don't have big vehicles involved. Your airplane is crashing. Your boat is sinking. Your submarine, you don't think it can surface, and you're well past crush depth at this point in time. Yeah, it's a really nice aircraft carrier, but two fighters managed to crash on landing, and now it is on fire. I rarely like to give a group something that just can't be dealt with, that there's no way. That takes a lot of agency away from them. And, oh, place is on fire, I'm going to die. The end. Now, there's room for resourcefulness. In fact, there's more room and need for resourcefulness in a disaster situation than anywhere else. That's why the Chinese character for crisis is trouble and opportunity. You want to see another fight of the week, that's fine. That's often that's what the people are there at the table for. They want to show what their character can do. They want to get storyline, they want to get character development, and then they want to bust out with some stuff and hit some people. And that's perfectly good, but you want to see those characters shine. You put them in a situation where they have got to get outside of that box. You put them in a situation where it's not a trap to disarm. It's not a feature in a dungeon. It's, wait, did they engineer this dungeon to withstand an earthquake? Because that's what we're in. Is that a trap or is that a cave-in? We're on the 50th story of a skyscraper, and a fire breaks out on floor 39. I know you're on a special ops operation and you're here to take someone out, but a blizzard just hit outside, everything is frozen over, and there's a whole bunch of people close to the roof screaming. I think it's got something to do with that helicopter that's having a hard time landing. Catastrophe is good entertainment. Look at the history of disaster movies. They seem a little passe today, and some of the ones we had recently aren't all that great. 2012 was the I'm talking about war movies like Battle Los Angeles. I'm talking about your old disaster movies, Airport 74, um, Towering Inferno, even the Volcano movie with Tommy Lee Jones, which I think was called Volcano. You get a terrible situation, and that's where heroism comes from. Yeah, there's heroism under fire, and combat will always give you some opportunities for that. But this is a bad situation. People are going to suffer. You are going to leave them to suffer, or you are going to try and help. You might suffer yourself. You're either going to get out of this or you're not. What do you do? And don't let that come down to a die roll. I mean, if someone has absolutely nothing, if they're sitting there slack-jawed trying to figure out what their character who can stab someone 19 times a minute but can't tie his own shoes is going to do, you give him a roll for some inspiration or some thought. You know, I don't know, maybe get under some cover. But you let people come up with stuff. Maybe there's a way of stabbing someone 19 times a minute to get out of this. Maybe not, but let them try. Okay, look at your character sheet. What do you got to work with? Let's see it. Work. Stepping outside the box doesn't have to be a whole session or even a whole adventure. It's a good thing to sprinkle in these little unexpected events. You could do a Thunderbirds style game where rescuing people and getting involved in natural disasters is your whole focus. At the same time, sprinkling these things in, it gives a little length and gravitas to a campaign. It gives you a feeling of accomplishment for the players. And as a game master, it lets you see what those characters will do in untoward and bizarre circumstances. It gives you a real chance to see what people are made of, and an opportunity to reward real valor in the face of ridiculous, if not impossible, odds. Plus, which the look that you get when you tell an entire table full of players that their plane is crashing. What are you going to do? Totally worth it. Well, thank you for following me along in this particular little ramble. If you liked the video, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't like the video, give me a thumbs down. Feedback is feedback. If you have tips or suggestions, if you've run some catastrophes in your own adventures, I'd like to hear about it. Leave me a comment. You'll love leaving me a comment. I'll love getting a comment. If you'd like to see my videos as soon as they come out, hit the subscribe button. If you do, go ahead and hit the little notification bell next to it so you actually get alerted when my videos come out. If you really dug the video, I invite you to hit me up at my Patreon page, www.patreon.com/ScottCorum, and consider donating. Absolutely anything helps and allows me to make better videos more often. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching. I'm Scott Corum. This is what has mattered to me. I'll see you next time on the next Matters of DeCorum.